everyone, and today's Come With Me. We are going to do something a little bit different. We are going to take a very traditional a Boston apartment and start to imagine what it could look like if I bring in some of that Parisian flair that I learned during my time period in France, and specifically in Paris. I am on just to give you a context, I am on Commonwealth Avenue, which goes all the way to the public garden, that direction, and goes all the way to Mass Ave on that avenue. I'm going to turn the camera around, but Boston is a interesting place, and we are currently in the Back Bay. And for those of you who don't know, the original Boston was a little tiny area that is what is today Beacon Hill, and which are obviously the high areas, and there was a tiny little peninsula that connected Beacon Hill, what today is Beacon Hill, to the mainland of Massachusetts. They filled all of it in I should say the mid 1800s. This is all fill. Everything here is fill. And so all of these homes are built, and apartment buildings, you name it, are built on fill. And as a consequence, the fill or pilings have to stay wet. I don't know what happens if they get dried out, but I don't think it's very good. But anyways, I wanted to show you a little bit of the neighborhood before we take a look at the apartment and really explore how we can take a very raw apartment in a very traditional Boston architecture style and bring in some of that Parisian flair. So come with me. I just wanted to show you a little bit of Marlborough Street because it's just such a beautiful street. Beacon is too. Actually, there's many beautiful streets, but you can see that more traditional look. I don't think I'm crazy to bring a little bit of that Parisian French look into my apartment, because actually a number of these will sort of have that look. I was trying to show you one where you'd see the white exterior, because there are some of those. I'll take you on Beacon Street and see if we can find some. Okay, here's a perfect example of some of the more French style buildings. This is actually a facade, and it is on top of the brick, but I find it so incredibly beautiful. Let's see if I can take a look at the one next door. Those of you who love Isabel Gardner, her home had one of these facades. So this one is a combination. You see both. Isn't that interesting? And I'll take you down here to look at kind of the typical brownstones, which are these long staircases up to the first level, and the kitchens were always down in the lower levels. Yeah, brownstones were really constructed with the same purpose in mind, whether you're in London. Paris is not really known for brownstones. Haussmann did not put in brownstones, but certainly London and Boston, New York. The lower levels are now often very beautiful apartments, but they were kitchens and staff. And that's why underneath all of these staircases, you see stairways, which I think is so interesting. This is a beautiful building. They really updated it to give it just a really pretty flair. Oh, there's an entrance right underneath. Very interesting. The Back Bay at one time was lots and lots of single-family homes, and believe it or not, many of these homes are returning to that. Right there is a perfect example. Beautiful home, single family, believe it or not. Yet, right across the street from it is an apartment building, or condos, as other parts of America might call it. I think England might call it flats. Paris, you would call it apartments. So weigh in what you think, what they're called in your neighborhood. You see a little bit of everything. Beautiful ironwork. Those are old windows. And we are coming up onto Marlborough Street. Marlborough Street is one of the quietest, most lovely streets in the Back Bay. I used to live right over there at 169 Marlborough Street when I first moved to Boston. And so behind us is Commonwealth Ave. This is Marlborough Street. And we are walking towards Beacon Street, which is where I live now. But you can see how pretty this is, and it gets even prettier when we hit in, when spring arrives. We are now walking up towards Beacon Street. You can hear the seagulls, which is a sound actually when I'm not here I miss. But that building right there is a perfect example of the fronts. So the primary building is brick, and then there's a coating on top of it. Look at these crazy bike lanes. The mayor took out so much of the city with these bike lanes, and there's nobody in them. Crazy, total waste. But you might say, why are there seagulls? The ocean is not that far, and actually if you walk down here you end up at the Charles River. Charles River is right in front of us. I think you can see a little peek of it right there. So, yeah.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, we're walking down Beacon Street. This side of Beacon Street is lots of co-ops, which is interesting because there are co-ops in Boston, but it's not as common as, say, New York. Co-ops are different from apartments for lots of different reasons, which I won't bore you with now. But you can see some of these are all beautiful apartment buildings, and you might say, why? It's because everybody on the back who has a back window actually overlooks the Charles River. High demand. So it's a beautiful day, even though the buds are just starting to come out. It's a beautiful day. And you see just about everything across the street. I like the details of things up here. Join the historical society of your community and see what it's all about. Now, some of these are, you see, like I said, you see a real mix. Some of these are student housing, because as you know, Boston's got a ton of colleges and universities. And then some of these actually were built as doctor's offices, like this one, which I think is such a pretty building. And I think it's a mix now, but it was built for doctor's offices. And isn't that facade gorgeous, though? Really pretty. They don't make lanterns like that anymore. And then next door is another doctor's office. But look at what's going on up at the top. This is why I love the Back Bay Historical Society. Beautiful wood door. Now we're coming up on a building, very interesting building. I don't know. I think it was built in the 70s, 60s. It's wild. It's all, the architecture is fascinating to me. Now, what do you think that is? It's probably a company name, but I want to go to the Leadership Brainery. But look at these. Each of these front little apartments have their own entrances. I think that's just sweet. Yeah, lots of security here. But what's back there looks entirely different. So I have no idea. Very cute. I think these are either studios or one bedrooms. Okay, so now we're coming upon my building, which is, how many stories high is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 stories high. This was built in roughly 1920 something as a apartment building. And yeah, I love it, actually. I absolutely love it. I think it's so pretty. And we are having all of our windows replaced, as I shared with you. So let's go in, and then I will show you my apartment. Okay, let's head in. So the first thing that I saw, I'm going to show you this, was lacking in my entrance was a door knocker. And even though I have an old doorbell, I just love the look of door knockers. And I have to share with you that I found this on eBay. Isn't that something? And so when you look at it on a black door, it just absolutely pops. And I think when you look at the perspective of the door from the elevator, it will be beautiful. Okay, so we're in the apartment. This is the entrance. You will see Paris all over this apartment. And part of it is I brought things from Paris, I shopped in Paris, because the one thing about the Parisian look is there's an elegance to it, a sophistication to it, but yet they don't take themselves super seriously, if that makes any sense. So there's also a quirkiness to it. So anyways, here is the entrance. I had mentioned carpets and how I cut down this carpet. This carpet was in actually in one of my Paris apartments, and so it had 2 wings, and I cut the wings off. One of them is down here, the other is outside the door, as you could see. So I think every entrance needs like a focal point, needs something spectacular, because it's the first aha moment when you walk into an apartment. So I am putting a mirror right here, and this lamp. I don't know if the lamp will be on the left or the right side. This will be recovered, this will be recovered, and the colors are not so different from what a previous owner had painted in here. That kind of blue, gray, green is everywhere in this apartment, which I absolutely love, and it really fits that Parisian look I'm going for, which you can see when you look at my drapery from Paris. But it's very different from my prior Boston apartment, which was on the seaport. And on the seaport, it's all modern. It could be anywhere in the world, actually. And so consequently, I used color to create areas of interest. So let me back up a little bit because I'm in the way here. So here's your entrance, or my entrance, I should say. I'll show you what is going to go in this corner when I get to the living room, but that will be the focal point there. I don't know what I'm going to do with mirrors. I don't know if there's going to be a painting above over here. Just trying to figure it all out. As you come in, you look directly into the kitchen. And I put that little old French bar cart right there for the moment to see how it felt. because I have a feeling, and you'll see what I mean, that there was an island, some type of a movable island there at one time. And I'm going to replicate that. This is just a little, I guess you call it a breakfast nook. I was going to initially recover this and the banquette, and then I thought, you know what? The painting is so busy, and I'll explain the painting in just a minute. The painting is so busy, I am not going to recover that. These are chairs from Paris, from the Knoll shop in Paris. They're the most comfortable chairs in the world. I love them. They're very contemporary, if not mid-century modern. They're covered in this most beautiful camel or caramel velvet kind of fabric. They're lovely. Okay, about the window. This window and the window that is above the kitchen sink both look out into a courtyard. And it's an inner courtyard. It is not an inner courtyard like you see in Paris, where there's typically a garden or something's growing or beautiful paint or whatever. I was initially going to spend the money and have sheer blinds put on because I liked the fact there was some light coming through. But then I decided, see, I have too many paintings, and I decided, is there a way I could use the paintings or the maps? In this case, it's an antique map of France. It is so cool. I'll try to get close so that you can see, because what it does is show you the different areas of France and the foods that that particular area are known for. It's an old map. I bought it at the I think I bought it at the Marché Le Pouce up on Saint-Ouen, which is just northern side of Paris. But that map is busy. That map has a lot going on, as you can see. And so consequently, I think that's why I decided not to recover this, save myself some money, and actually not do the shears. In both situations, I will be removing the current Roman shades, and then the painting will be hung from the top wood piece of the windows. So anyways, cookbooks. Off of this room is a little pantry. It's a gem of a pantry. I'm not so sure it didn't sell me on this apartment, because as you can see, I have a little bit of a fetish with china. So this is a wonderful, wonderful room, filled to the brim, but yet pretty and elegant. It has a glass window door on it, and I am either going to frost that so that you can't see in, or put a little curtain on it or something. So as you go into the kitchen, as you can see, and this is a great trick, I'm sure many of you do it, and that is to tape out the size of something in a room in order to get a really good feel. Will this actually work? I found a table, very small table as you can see, but I can use it as an island because the top of it is marble, and therefore I can use it in a kitchen, which I think is really important. The bottom is brass legs, top is marble, so it will add another texture via a different metal in this room. And if you look up, this is why I believe there was an island here at one time, because otherwise, why in the world would you have these fixtures up here in addition to ceiling lights? But the island has to be so small, otherwise you cannot, and I'll stand over here so you can get a view, you cannot get the oven door open and have room to take something out of the oven. It's crazy. This is a very big kitchen for a Boston apartment of this size. This apartment, oh gosh, I don't know how many square feet it is. 1,600, 1,400, something like that. I will put it down in the show notes, actually. You see all my my white chocolate. I am making a pistachio brownies. I have never done this, and I've got pistachio butter, I've got pistachio paste, so that's my side note. But anyways, here is the window that overlooks the sink. As you can see, it is actually a very fun, goofy, almost, I don't know what, someone tell me what you think this style is, but it was something I bought in Minneapolis in a antique shop, believe it or not, or a consignment shop, I guess you'd call it. HB Gallery is what it's called. So I don't know if somebody bought it in France and brought it to Minneapolis, or what. I have no idea, but it's up at the top of Montmartre. I think is what the square is, so you know. Over here, so part of the joy of this apartment is I'm having fun because I love to redecorate. These are lamps I bought in Paris. They were actually in my kitchen in Paris, and I wanted to see if in fact they would work here, which I think they will. They fit perfectly underneath the cabinet. I'm going to put one there, and I'm going to put one over in my coffee bar area. I have to get those rewired, and just so you know, it's not just a question of changing the end, but it's also changing what's going on up here because they have different light bulbs. So you have to get somebody who knows what they're doing. This kitchen, as fabulous as it is, it has multiple doors. So you've got the door back to the entrance. Then you have this funny door over here, and you might say, Sharri, what in the world? I use this as a storage closet, but it actually is another exit. Apartments have to have, if you don't have a fire escape, it has to have another way to get out in case of fire. Something other than out your front door. And it can't be an elevator. And this was that when the building was built. And the building, I think I told you this, but the building was built in the early 1920s. So you have to think about the 1920s. I mean, cars were not that prevalent, honestly. I don't know when the subway was actually started in Boston, and Boston actually has the oldest subway system in America, and people were terrified of it because it was electrical and kind of interesting. But if you want to get an idea of what place this apartment in a time frame, watch like season 2 of Downton Abbey. And because it's right after the First World War. Okay, back to doors. Sorry, I digress here. We got the door that was to the exit and possibly the servant's door, because in those days, people who had wealth had servants, had daily help that came in, even in an apartment of this size. This door, I can't open it because I'd have to call the elevator, is an elevator door. And what happens is that this is the door, or the elevator, it's a service elevator that people use or would use. I don't have a car in Boston, and so, but if I had a car, this would take me to the lower level, and down there's a gym, and it also is the exit to the parking lot. But you can see the old elevator button, which I think is so cool. I love those little pieces. We're going to talk about in just a minute why these paintings and mirrors and whatnot are all laying on the ground. We are walking into what was the formal dining room. And given I'm a single gal, life changes, I don't need a formal dining room. But I needed some kind of closing off because that is my office den. And so I am going to have glass doors put on this wall just to provide a little privacy from the kitchen as well as the service elevator. This was the formal dining room, and you can see remnants of what it must have looked like because there's a chandelier, there is a fireplace. when the building was built, these were all working fireplaces. Even the prior owner used this as a dining room, and so consequently she had a painting above the fireplace, whereas I am coming in with a television set. And don't you love my really extensive electrical work? Nothing like extension cords. And the reason that I can't just call an electrician and say, come and put an outlet in, is because of the age of this building. These walls are cement and terracotta. And because of the age, first of all, it's very hard to get nails in through cement, number one. And number two, given the age, when the nail goes in, the terracotta will often just crumble. And so it doesn't create just a cobweb, look in the plaster, but it actually falls apart. And so someone who really knows how to deal with this kind of building has to come in and do the electrical work, as well as hang the paintings and the mirrors. If you see something hung, it just means it's hanging on a like up there, it's hanging on a nail that is currently there. I'm not messing with any of them at this point. I do want to show you this table because I think it is so fantastic. I purchased this table at the Nashville Antique Show, which was in about 2 videos ago, where I actually took you to go see what that is all about. But I fell in love with it at the antique show, and then I got home and I'm like, oh my God, it looks so beautiful with this little coffee table I bought at a store, just an everyday store in Paris. And I just think they go together so well. This room is messy. It will always be messy. It is my office, as you can tell. Those sconces are actually going to go to my daughter's house in Minnesota, because I think they'll look even better there because they're so substantial. And what I am putting in place is actually these, which are sconces from Paris. So you can see I'm bringing Paris here. It's like, how do you bring Paris or how do you bring France into your home? You find things that have that, either that you've purchased in France, that you've shipped from France, or that have a French look, in order to soften the strong lines that we tend to use so often in America. We tend to use the very strong lines in all parts of America for whatever reason. The windows are terrible. These are the original windows, and how you know they are is because the glass is actually wavy. And somewhere, as I shared in the second bedroom, somewhere along the way, someone put permanent, if you can believe it, permanent storm windows on, and they are filthy dirty. But speaking of the windows, the windows are all being replaced in April. It was an expensive proposition, but I knew it when I bought this apartment, so I knew what it was going to cost me going in. The blind, though, the Roman shade, as well as the sheer, are beautiful. They are wonderfully made, beautiful quality. They have not fallen apart in any way, shape, or form. I think the owner who did the renovation actually had those made, and I love them, and they go with the theme in this apartment, or this room. The room it's not mauve. I can't remember the color. I'll share with you as we get further along, but the color that this room is going to be painted from top to bottom goes with that particular blind. The furniture in here, again, as you can see, I used really strong colors in my Seaport apartment and Boston Seaport apartment, and I'm going more French. I'm going back into the grays and the blues that I really had my prior apartment look like, but also my Paris apartment. We're going now from what is now my den office, and we're walking into the living room. The windows, first of all, this was built, like I said, in the early 1900s, and so consequently, this is called Storrow Drive. There was no traffic on Storrow Drive when this apartment building was built, and so as a consequence, these all open to get the breeze off the Charles River. The Charles River is right outside the window, as you can see. MIT is over there. I used to work at MIT. In the summer, at the American Independence Day celebration, July 4th, there's fireworks out on the Charles River, and the music from the Boston Pops is just down the street. So I look forward to having that, be a sight from my apartment. Because this is busy now, I am going to turn this side into not a door, but permanent windows. Same with the other side, and then the only thing that will open will be the center panel that will open to the Juliet balcony. What's very cool about it is, as a result, I will have hardware. Hardware that I can take off of here. This is what the plan is anyways. Take the hardware off of here and actually have it put on the doors that are going to be built for right there, so that there's cohesion. And also I like the fact that I'm using something up that is great quality. Speaking of the windows, again, a friend of mine said, Sharri, why don't you do shears, and do shears that come up from the bottom, that anchor on the bottom, and in order to block all the traffic. And actually, so what did I do? It's just like the book Design Your Fabulous Next Chapter. I had to try it on. So I went and bought from Amazon shears that are paper that, stick to the windows. And I stuck them to the bottom, pulled them up. I wanted to see what it felt like. And honestly, it felt horrible. It was awful. I felt like I was in a cave, even though lots of light was coming through. I like the activity. I like feeling I am a part of the world. So this room is interesting. It's a big room. And it's interesting because I'm going to use the end of the room as my dining area, because I do not have formal dinner parties that often. It's really a great place for a small party or a buffet. All the furniture in here will be recovered other than the Pierre Frey chairs from France. Those will not be recovered because they go with anything. The paint in this room is going to be very subtle, cream. This side of that's a French commode from Paris. This side has, excuse me, this side has a very beautiful mirror that's going up, and this side has a beautiful painting, which kind of separates the room, and in the center is actually going a frieze, cement frieze. It's quite beautiful. It's been in a number of different apartments. So to kind of split up that particular area, there are lamps all over the place and shades all over the place, because it just yesterday, it took me that long to start to place lamps and to figure out what I was going to take to the consignment shop and or give away. So now I know. The dining room table was actually purchased in Paris. It has multiple leaves. It's a fantastic table. I love it. The chairs are Boston, so they will be recovered. The mirror is the mirror that is going to go above the fireplace, and I will show you the sconce change. But this is the only thing that got damaged with all the things I shipped from Paris. It's a cement, and you can kind of see the crack all the way through here. So that has to be fixed. And as you can see, that mirror curves, And I think in the shipping it just wasn't supported enough. This is a foot, a foot to a chair. That was damaged here while it was in storage, so that's why that chair has a sock on. But back to the mirror and the sconces. So because the mirror is so ornate, I am using French sconces that I brought from France that are very plain. So you can see they will be higher than these, and they will be much plainer than these, because the sconces have one shade. So it will be a very clean look because that mirror is busy, really, really busy. What else can I show you? Oh, you might wonder why I have all these book boxes over here. The bookshelves, all those books have to go into boxes because everything's being painted, but also you can see the left side. It looks funny, and that's because there was a television set in here, a huge television set that came out, something I never ever do. I don't think anybody does that anymore. That was all built probably about 10 years ago. So I had them take it all apart, and they are going to replicate that side over here because I have so many books. Now, my decorator friend said, why don't you make that a beautiful bar? Which would be so cool. Can you imagine the mirrored back or mirrored bottom and a beautiful backing and glass shelves and et cetera, but I rarely ever drink. Drinking's not really a part of even my entertaining, and I have a book addiction. So that became very easy what to do, although I still love that bar idea. What else can I share with you? Oh, these chairs. So these chairs I also bought, there's two of them, in the Nashville Antique Show. And you might say, oh my God, Sharri, even though that fabric is new and very in, it's totally not me. And also I think it takes away from the beautiful carving on the chair. These chairs are so comfortable, you cannot believe it. You just sink in those chairs, and you could read a book in those chairs. You could eat sitting in those chairs. You could watch television forever in those chairs. These are comfortable. Those, the Pierre phrase, are not comfortable. Now, maybe if I was a smaller woman, they would be, but they're not. These are fantastic. So they're getting recovered, as is obviously the sofa, as it's the dining room chairs. This is getting painted. What else in here? That's an old trunk. I think it says Bon Marché. I can't remember. Anyone can see that? Let me know. That I purchased in Paris, years ago. And you will laugh. It's actually, I think I can open it for you. It's actually my toolbox. It's where I keep my tools and my batteries and all that kind of stuff. Who would think, right? But when you have small spaces, you have to get creative. What else? I mentioned some of the lamps are going to consignment. That commode came from Paris. It is fantastic because it is so big and so deep, and it holds all of my linens and even some of my holiday decorations. What else? Oh, there is a sofa table that I've taken from place to place. This is a restoration hardware piece, and it's still sold. It's a wonderful table. And they make them, they're skinny enough that they're great in entries, they're great in kitchens, they're great behind sofas. I need battery operated lamps or solar lamps behind the sofa because there is no plug and there's no way to put a plug in. Like I said, the walls and the floor are cement, and in the walls you also have terracotta. And so that painting, as an example, is just hanging on a hook that was there. These are our lamps that I am going to put into the guest bedroom or the second bedroom. I think they'll look great above the sofa, because the sofa is a pull-out sofa. So if I have grandkids that come and stay with me, good friends, or anyone who wants to sit on that sofa and read, these will be perfect. The shades, again, I think were done by the owner before the last owner, and that was the fellow that did the entire renovation, and it was beautiful. He did everything he did was quality. It's amazing. These are drapes that came from Paris, and we used those kind of as a backdrop. That rug was purchased here. It's a, oh gosh, Stark. Stark makes this rug. That particular color is not made anymore. This was a rug that I had in my Paris apartment. It is the same rug without the border and in a different color. And that is the same rug that was in the entrance that I cut up. So some little chairs in Paris. Those are a dime a dozen at the Marché in Paris. Truly, like we're talking $50 for 2 chairs. They're tiny little things. And honestly, I think not honestly, I am being honest, but no small comment. The recovering of them was much more expensive than the chairs themselves. What else? Let's see. Just giving you an idea. This is, like I said, this is all the before. And well, I'll show you the rest of the entrance. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the lady. My moment of insanity. You might say, what in the world is in this box, Sharri? Sitting in front of your beautiful fireplace. Well, this is who's in my box. I think they not Marquinez is what she is called. She is not plaster. She is actually fabric. I think she is just beautiful. And on a trip with Sharon Santoni to Provence, I found her and fell in love, absolutely in love. So she's been in this box for, oh my gosh, 6 months, I think. And so consequently, I've kept her safe in the box, and she is going to actually sit on a pedestal right here, so that when you come in to the apartment, you will see this beautiful mirror here, this very cool lamp, and the lady will be right there, which is great. And then you'll obviously look that way to the kitchen. And I will take you this way. The one thing I will mention, Rabbit Air, it's an air filter. They are fantastic. You can order the filters based on whatever the issue is. So when I'm having painting done, I order the toxic fumes filter, and you plug that in and it takes away all the smells. Because as you well know, when you paint, you cannot open windows or you end up with dust on the actual paint. It will actually connect to the paint and create bumps. So this is the direction to the second bedroom, but I wanted to show you this because this is also Paris. 2 things that are Paris, actually. This little guy I bought years ago, and I just loved him because he looks like a writer, and he had a mate, but I didn't buy his wife or his girlfriend. I only bought him for whatever reason. I loved him. This is a beautiful etching, very old, that I also bought in Paris at the market. And it's an old etching, and you know that because you can see how undeveloped Paris is. This is Notre Dame, if you were wondering. This is the right bank. And if I can move the little man, you can see the left bank. So I tend to hang out in this area, which at that time that this etching was made was all farms, convents with gardens, you name it. It was very, very undeveloped. So I fell in love with this. And then at the very top, you see Montmartre, and there's no Sacré-Cœur. So consequently, you know the age of this. We will now step into the primary bedroom area, and you're finding out all the things that sold me on my apartment. First are the bookshelves. A girl just cannot have too many bookshelves. This is very messy, very unstaged, everything at the moment, because the back of it will be painted, as will all of the trim. But this is the entrance into the primary suite. The primary bathroom, like the second bathroom, is beautiful. Everything is waterworks. I love the tile. I love the color of the tile. I'm wallpapering the bathroom, but there's so much tile, there will be hardly any wallpaper. This is the master suite, or primary suite, whatever you want to call it today. I need to explain that the desk is in the wrong place. And the reason the desk is here is because they are coming on Tuesday, so we had to have a carpenter come and open up all of the panels in front of the radiators throughout the apartment, because they're actually putting external thermostats on the radiator. And the radiators that are in each room. So the desk is normally here. I have it set up very similar to how I had it in Paris. I had the desk on one side, and then I had a much smaller commode on this side. So the desk right now is sitting here, and the bench that's at the bottom of the bed normally is sitting over here. The mirrors will be hung behind each of the desk and the small commode. What else? Oh, I do need to share. I just love this fabric. I first fell in love with this fabric when I purchased my first apartment in Boston after my divorce. It's not made anymore. I loved it so much. I just kept putting it in houses. It started as curtains, believe it or not, or drapes for the living room. But everywhere I go, whenever someone buys something, they want this. So they asked for the drapes of my last home, and I had to give it to the buyer, because I was trying to sell the home right after COVID. But I had more of it, as you can tell. I don't know why, but I just absolutely adore it. Now, what am I going to do with the walls in here? I'm going to show you. And this was an Instagram find. So as crazy as it sounds, sometimes we get great ideas from Instagram, don't we? Don't we? I'm going to show you this wallpaper. Look at this. Is this fantastic? I think it is just so beautiful. I love the birds. I love birds. I'd be a birder if I could figure out how to do that. And so I love the birds. I love the branches. I love the colors. I love the interest of the paper. So this paper, we had to purchase a sample because they make it as ordered. And who is this? Lewis and Wood. It was a decorator, actually on Instagram, an American decorator who lives in London, who had this in a room on one of her Instagram photos. I went to her website, and then I emailed her and asked her what the paper was, and she sent me to this company. So never be afraid to ask if you fall in love with something. So this is the paper for this room. The woodwork will be painted to fit better with these. These cabinets, they were originally china cabinets, if you can believe it. They were made for me by the most incredible carpenters, Finnish carpenters, incredible. They are now above, they're for all my folding clothes, and below, which is what we all have to do when we have small places, below are file cabinets. You could use them as file cabinets like I have, or you could have used them as drawers for more clothes, depending upon what your needs are. So I love these. They were made for me from my very first apartment in Boston post-divorce, and I have taken them to every single location. Crazy. So the trim in here is going to be painted along with that, which goes beautifully with the paper, just beautifully. The curtains are actually from Paris, and you might recognize them. They're just gorgeous. Silk, almost a taffeta silk. And, you know, even though this valance, I'm not really a valance kind of person, but because the side curtains are held up by rods that are hidden by the valance, and I don't have the luxury of changing hardware because of the cement terracotta issue, I've got one extra panel of this, and I already have a curtain designer, sewer, whatever, atelier, who is going to wrap the valance with the extra panel. And so therefore all I will need to do is purchase a new center, a new Roman for the middle. And the reason I have to purchase a new Roman, not only does it not really go, it's also very sun damaged. For whatever reason, this one has much more sun damage, and it's probably because there isn't a building that's jutting out on either side. I don't know where that little table will go. One of the chairs I purchased at the Nashville Antique Show will be in here, but I'm covering it the same as the living room, and you could see that the color schemes kind of all go together throughout the house, throughout the apartment, I should say. And what's cool about that is that if I'm entertaining, I could pull that chair into the living room very easily. And therefore, think about that. In smaller spaces, you have to pay much more attention to what is movable from room to room, and therefore you need a cohesive color design. That chair, believe it or not, was Amazon. And I purchased it when I moved into my temporary location in between the seaport and here. And the darn chair is so comfortable, you can't imagine. Oops, my microphone is stuck. And it swivels. You know, you don't get any better. It's kind of that boucle that used to be so popular, but the thing is so comfortable that I might even put it in the guest bedroom. The desk and the commode both came from Paris, as did the chair, the little desk chair. The mirrors also came from Paris, but the mirrors are not old. They were purchased in a shop, ready-made shop in Paris. I think that's it. I think that is all for, the only other thing I will mention is I'm not a big television watcher, and certainly not in bed. And this television was left by the previous owner. I will get a smaller television. I'm also having them the carpenters build up the back of this with shelving so that I can put jewelry, scarves, whatever in that shelving, and then I can bring the television up further so that there's not this huge gap. We thought about whether or not to wallpaper the back of this, which we might. We just have to see how it looks when we've got the bottom built up. So anyways, the hardware throughout this apartment is so pretty. I just love it. I love that little band around every one of the knobs, and that's, I believe, unlacquered brass, and so consequently it has aged very, very well. Closets are all built out. They were built out by the man who did the renovation here, and so anyways, they're perfect. That is the master bedroom. Back here is the second bedroom, and this bedroom, it has multi-purposes. Number one, it's a storage of all my work things. It also, please excuse the ironing board, the washer and the dryer is in one of the closets here. It is also going to be my sewing room, and so I may potentially be able to use that table for that. If you can hear the wind whistling, it's because it is so windy here today. It's incredible. But you can also see how filthy dirty these windows are. These are the original windows. So we are talking 100-year-old windows. And at some point, somebody put these permanent, I don't know, storm windows on. So consequently, you can't open the windows and you can't clean them. Not a great idea. Anyway, so that's the Windows saga. The blinds, Roman shades, were put on by the man who did the entire renovation here, and he had exquisite taste, or he had a designer with exquisite taste, because they work with the sofa. This room is going to be painted, not painted, it's going to be wallpapered, and it's a very fun wallpaper. But this sofa is a pull-out sofa, which means, you know, grandchild stays with me, family, good friends, you know, it's a great little sleeping place. And then I mentioned in the living room about the sconces that are actually reading lights. They will go right above the sofa, which is fantastic. But you can see that the blinds, the Roman shades actually go reasonably well with the sofa. Pillows are just here for the moment. Hermes scarf that I framed, and my sewing machine's on the floor. So this is all a work in progress. How I'm going to set this up to be both a sewing room as well as a guest bedroom is a work in progress. And you can see all the paintings sitting on the floor over here, and mirrors waiting for the professional installation, if you want to call it that. Right outside the guest bedroom is the guest bathroom. This is, I don't know how that stayed up. I can't stand that. This bathroom is just plain as can be, but beautiful. And that is one of the reasons why I sold my apartment in the other building before doing the renovation, is that I realized I did not want to go through the hassle and the expense of a bathroom and kitchen renovation. I was so drawn to this because, number one, that tile is absolutely beautiful, and there are waterworks, taps, and mirrors in all the bathrooms. So just lovely. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that. It's really giving you a glimpse into the decorating process. And you can see I live with boxes. There are the boxes. But it's stage one, and we all have stage one. I don't care if you're renovating or redecorating an apartment that you rent, if you're redecorating a room in your home, an entire home, or even your life. It's a process. And that's what I wanted to show you today, is how to, in this case, how to bring a little bit of all of what I learned about decorating in Paris, all that I soaked up in all those years that I lived in Paris, I now am bringing into my Boston apartment. And it's thrilling for me. It's thrilling for me on many levels. Number one, I love learning, and so having the opportunity and the incredible gift to be able to step into what I think is one of the most interior design focused cities in the world. But also, you know, it's like when I look around in my apartment, and I'm sure you do this with wherever you live, I see bits of my life all over the place. And that is also very, very Parisian. Like I said at the very beginning of the video, it's this combination of elegance, sophistication, and kind of quirkiness. And but in my apartment, there's just pieces of every aspect of my life. You're not seeing family photos yet because they are not on the walls, which is where they will end up. But all of the, you know, I did not share a whole lot from the standpoint of little, you know, statues or little things that I've bought in my travels or that I was given by children, grandchildren, whatever it might have been. Books. books. All you have to do is open up a book and suddenly you're taken back into that time period when you read that book. So that's what makes our homes so incredibly special. And in my case, because Paris had such a profound influence on me post-divorce, I'm bringing some of that into my new Boston apartment, my new old Boston apartment. So I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up because that totally matters to YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, jump in. I just am marching towards 25,000, and as you all know, that matters on YouTube. Each of those little steps as you get towards whatever your goal is. What else? Oh, and if you are interested in really stepping into your next chapter in a big way, purchase my book. It's on Amazon. It's a little book, but it's a powerful book. It's got so many important both stories as well as exercises to help you to move through that 7-step process of designing your own fabulous next chapter. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, so jump on in, everyone. But mostly I want to thank you. I want to thank those of you who have been commenting and do comment. As you know, I asked a lot of questions on this video, and so I welcome your comments. I welcome your answers. I welcome your questions, and I read every single one of your comments. So comment away and to each other. That's what I think is so cool about this new age of technology that we all have the gift to live in. So everyone, take care. And if you liked this, I will show you maybe one of the steps in between the final product. That probably will not show up until June. But tell me what you think. Tell me if you like these sorts of videos. And I will show you the finished product at the end, I promise. So take care, everyone. A bientôt.